The ideas that gave birth to our nation are the ideas that our nation is resistant to right now, and we should talk about that all the time.
In a world where narratives are shaped by corporations and gatekeepers, independent voices matter more than ever. Badlands Media brings together citizen journalists, researchers, and independent thinkers.
The truth is triggering.
Question the narrative. Explore the facts.
It's authenticity, courage, resilience.
Search for the truth others won't.
It's not about being first or being right.
The information war is changing.
It's about being authentic.
Embrace the friction.
Embrace the friction.
Shut the f*** up.
Authentically antagonizing. Join the movement.
I'm going to say how I feel.
Follow Badlands Media.
This is about the future.
The Badlands. What are the Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with a laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. We start another week in the year of our Lord 2026. Joined by the one and only Zak Paine. What's going on,
morning. Good to see you, Brian. So excited to be here. Lots of exciting things happening this weekend. And I feel like we're really ramping up, dude. This is a good time, man. And I feel, well, I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into the woods, but everything that we're seeing makes so much sense to me, and I feel really good about it.
Yeah, the timing is starting. I think we're getting into that part of the, of the movie, so to speak, where, the exposure is starting to come down, starting to see some movement, some hints at movement. I said on my show this week, we were talking about, what happens if all of this is exposed. And, it is found out that Trump was robbed of 2 consecutive terms. And I think that that's the path to 2028 if he wants it. I also said that, under the current predicament, under the contemporary situation our country's in right now, I don't know if he would win an election right now. But I think when all of this comes to fruition and we see all of this play out the way that it's lining up, we see everything from the collapse of OPEC, NATO, and then the deep state here within the United States. I think it's a no-brainer for even the most normie of normies, the Fox News and CNN normies. It's a no-brainer. So let's go. Accelerate. All right, guys, welcome to the show. Let's go ahead and jump into our sponsors for today. And first up, let's talk about our good friends over at Rise Attire.
What up, Badlanders? Are you ready to rock something new in 2026? Well, as always, we got you covered with the Rise Badlands Native Collection. Built from the rich tones and rugged terrain of the Dakotas, equal parts beautiful and brutal. Old roots, new vibe. Whether you got gators in your backyard or you have to take a bush plane to the post office, Badlanders are worldwide. Different dirt, same tribe. Speaking of different dirt, The ghost of base Patrick Henry designed a plan for the border wall that he actually sent to the White House. It's friggin' hilarious. Now you can get it on a shirt, hoodie, and more. And don't forget, every order throws fuel on the fire of the Made in USA parallel economy. So grab something now at badlandsmedia.tv/rise.
All right, badlandsmedia.tv/rise. Also, you can catch Rise Attire on episode 6 of America First Stories over right here on Badlands Media.
Yes. I want one of those border wall shirts so bad. It's so good.
I keep procrastinating on getting it. I'm like, I'm going to buy one. And then, the show goes on. And by the end of the show, I forgot about it. So somebody text me and remind me to buy one after this so I can have one of those shirts.
We'll do it together today, Brian.
After the show.
Yeah.
Put a Post-it. I keep telling my wife I need to buy a thing of Post-its so I can just stick them. But the problem is if I do that, I will have Post-its all the way around my monitor.
Yep. I would be the same way.
I'm going to yell to her like during the next commercial break, Christy, buy Post-it notes. Maybe I'll just go on Amazon and order them. All right, let's talk about our next sponsor, guys. This episode is also brought to you by Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil, omega-3s, and astaxanthin for hearts, joints, and memory. Quick question. Do you know why flamingos are pink?
Do I know why flamingos are pink? I do, yeah. And it has something to do with this sponsor.
It's not in their genes.
Yes.
Flamingos are actually born gray. They turn pink because of specific antioxidants in algae and tiny shrimp that they eat. It's called astaxanthin.
Mm-hmm.
And some doctors call it internal sunscreen because of how powerful it protects your cells from oxidative stress like the sun's UV rays. Salmon has it. Krill has even more of it. Today's sponsors is packed into one tiny soft gel. If you've been taking fish oil for heart, joint, or memory support, here's something you need to know. Research shows that fish oil is 50% less absorbable than krill oil because fish oil's omega-3s are in triglyceride form, whereas krill oils are in phospholipid form, which is the same format that your cell walls are made of. That means krill oil gets into your cells immediately. In head-to-head studies, krill oil outperformed fish oil at improving cholesterol, reducing inflammation, and easing joint pain, often at lower doses. Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil is sourced from pristine Antarctic waters and contains powerful antioxidants like astaxanthin, that's a tough word for me to say, and comes in tiny, soft gel form with no fishy burps. For this special offer, save up to 60%. Just head to getkrill.com/badlands. Again, that's GetKrill.com/badlands, and you can try it risk-free with a 365-day money-back guarantee.
There we go.
Let's so if I take the krill, am I going to turn pink?
You won't turn pink. You won't turn pink. But yes, it is fascinating to think that flamingos get their pink color from what they're eating, from that astaxanthin.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the news for today. And give me a second because my screen just completely and totally decided it wanted to freeze on me. And there we go. Now we're good. Hey, what? Maybe we're not good. There we go. Now we're good. All right. So over the weekend, there was a plane crash at an air show out in Idaho. And let's just pull this up. 2 growlers, which are, essentially high-speed F-18s, like technology-wise. And they crashed midair at this air show.
Go on, boys. Oh, they all got out good.
Yes, all the pilots did get out. I think they're all okay. That's
man. What was the move they were supposed to do? I mean, they look like a couple of mating birds.
No, what's the one that that Anthony Hopkins talks about in Silence of the Lambs? One of them, they dive too shallow and they dive too high, and if they dive too shallow, and if you made a low diver with a steep diver, you create the perfect breed. But if you mix 2 lows, they crash and they die. And kind kind of what it looked like. I, pray for those pilots, and man, I just can't imagine going to an air show and having to see something like that. Like,
it happens a lot, it seems like. I mean, at least once a year, I feel like we're getting stories about air show disasters, of varying intensity and sadness.
From what I understand, they canceled some other events at that air show because of the high winds and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of wonder why they're having maneuvers that are being done like that. But again, who knows what was going on there? But it is reassuring to see that all 4 pilots did get out. And
who wants to go to an air show where you're not going to get your jimmies rustling, right? Where you're not going to get like that rush of adrenaline and endorphins. I mean, they're always going to push it to see like what the limits of their talents are. And 95% of the time it works and it's amazing. And people leave and they're like, wow, those people are so talented. And they are, and then other times you've got unfortunate incidents like this, an act of God, gust of wind at the wrong time. And there you go.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. All right, let's jump into probably the biggest story of the weekend. Boom, CNN election denier Tina Peters will get clemency after admitting she, quote unquote, made a mistake. Colorado's Democratic governor says. Now, of course, we're not going to rely on CNN for this story, considering that Badlands, we've covered it more than probably just about any news outlet out there, whether it's me or Ash on Why We Vote, on Badlands Daily, on several other shows.
Yeah.
Whatever the case might be, we're not going to rely on CNN for this. So let me pull up real quick. Oh crap, where'd it go? I apologize, guys. This is going all over the place. I wanted to get her statement up here, and
you can go to her Twitter. I know.
Yeah.
She's on there.
Yeah, I had it pulled up right here, and all right, I'll have to go to her Twitter because that post got deleted. So bear with me for 1 second. So she's not been pardoned. She was just given clemency. Basically Jared Polis reduced her sentence, in half, cut her sentence in half. And let me jump over here to read her statement and pull it up on her Twitter directly. And here it is. So she says, "Thank you, Governor Polis. I made mistakes, and for those, I am sorry. 5 years ago, I misled the Secretary of State when allowing a person to gain access to county voting equipment. That was wrong. I've learned and grown during my time in prison, and going forward, I'll make sure that my actions always follow the law, and I will avoid the mistakes of the past. I strongly condemned it when people not connected to me threatened to storm the prison that I am in. I myself have faced threats. So I also want to be clear that I condemn any and all bullying, threats, and acts of violence against voters, county clerks, election workers, and other public officials, and concerned citizens like myself. Upon release, I plan to do my best through legal means to support election integrity and based on my own personal experiences to elevate the cause of prison reform to help ensure the detention system is more fair and equitable for people of all ages. My experiences have given me a perspective that I plan to share with others to improve Colorado's correction system. I'm grateful for a second chance and an earlier release, and I look forward to doing good in the world." Now, a lot of people were, I don't want to say concerned, but a lot of people were a little bit like upset by that statement.
People need to be realistic, right? I mean, she is now at the whim of the parole board, and the parole board is not going to allow her parole unless she shows some type of contrition. All right. So, I mean, like, this is very common for people. I mean, even people who have spent their entire lives claiming that they were innocent, at the last second, in order to get out of prison, they will be like, I finally taken accountability. I mean, like, here I am throwing myself at the mercy of the board, and I'm sorry for everything I've done. Even if they, don't go in and say something specific. I mean, she said she apologized. She has reflected. And it's not like she is apologizing for standing up for election integrity. She's apologizing for one specific thing, and that is misleading Jenna Griswold. And that's it. And without doing that, I don't think they would have let her out. But once she's out, once she's off parole, the shackles are off and she'll be able to speak honestly.
Yeah. Well, she'll be on probation for.
I mean, when you're on, I guess I thought that probation was when you like go to jail or, you know, you get convicted and then you're on probation. Like once you're let out of prison, like parole is like the stricter version of probation. And then once your parole ends, that's when your probationary period ends.
Well, yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I thought we don't know the details yet because the parole board hasn't decided yet, but Polis has in his letter says June 1st is the day that she will be let free. Again, he doesn't have a control over the parole board, so the parole board is independent. So, you know, I'm assuming that there's been some sort of a negotiation or deal made and acceptance and understanding. Yeah. But yeah, that's a fair point. Like what's going to happen when she gets out? What's she going to be limited from being able to do versus, you know, I don't think they can limit her First Amendment rights.
I think they might. I think they might be able to because if they can, they will. Undoubtedly, like they're going to say, you know, no media appearances or, you know, they might even tell her she can't go on social media. I've definitely seen that before, you know, like no internet access. So whatever it might be, they're going to do it.
Yeah. And so again, me and Ash will unpack this tomorrow on why we vote a lot more, but I do want to go over some of the things that we've seen since then. I did post, you know, in response to, you know, acknowledging the mistake, you know, several other people, I'll read a couple of them, but I wrote in response, you did nothing wrong, but I think we all understand why this had to be said. It's not exactly the most desirable outcome. Complete and total exoneration would be the most desirable, but it's the best outcome for you right now. And that's what matters the most. You've suffered a great injustice from a weaponized system. God bless you, Tina. So happy for you today. The truth will prevail. Carrie Lake saying, Tina, you are a patriot. You've made no mistakes. We, the people who love America, appreciate you more than you will ever know. Joe Hoft over at Gateway Pundit and joehoft.com. Tina, we're happy for your release. It's long overdue. It's outrageous what the leftist communists have done to your state and to this country. Those who protect the law and support free and fair elections have become criminals in their world. Stolen elections are the vehicle for them to control more that isn't theirs and never will be. We're at the point of insanity, and you highlighted this. You're an honest, courageous, and loving mother, daughter, and American. We all know that. God bless you. You will always be a warrior in my heart. Love you and respect you always. And I think I agree with Carrie Lake and Joe Hoft as well on
100%. Yeah,
sentiments.
It's unconscionable what's been done to Tina. Another thing that I will say that I thought was interesting from that letter is that, you know, and this is something else that you often see, is that people who go to prison get out and they become champions for prison reform. Mm-hmm. And it's notable because Colorado and their prison system is currently under investigation by the Department of Justice right now. So Tina may come out and immediately get involved in something like that, which I would be surprised if she didn't.
Yeah, again, I think so as well. And perhaps even more so than than the election integrity aspect, because that's something that's affected her for the last 3 years almost now.
Yeah.
So Jenna Griswold and Ash posted this statement here. In response, she says, this clemency grant to Tina Peters is an affront to our democracy. The people of Colorado and election officials across the country, the governor's actions today will validate and embolden the election denial movement and leave a dark, dangerous imprint on American democracy for years to come. And she says the quiet part out loud right there, in my opinion. The governor's actions today will validate and embolden the election denial movement. And that tells you that this was a weaponized persecution.
Absolutely.
This was a weaponized thing. How dare you speak out against elections and election integrity? The Colorado County Clerks Association, Matt Crane, they also put out a statement, and just real quick, the first sentence of that, they call it, they say, we're furious, disgusted, and deeply disappointed by the governor's decision. We've met with them privately to make our position unmistakably clear that Tina Peters deserves the accountability imposed through Colorado's judicial system, and the governor should at the very least respect that process and allow it to fully play out before intervening. Now, again, the appellate court in Colorado remanded her sentencing back down to the district court for resentencing. However, they still put it in front of Judge Barrett, the judge that originally went off on this insane tirade during the sentencing, calling her a charlatan, a snake oil, saying she's entitled, comparing her to or comparing her negatively to people who have been drug addicts and drug dealers and all sorts of other, unfortunately, financially, people that had hardship, like not the best people in the world, right?
Yeah.
And to compare her, a Gold Star mother, never been convicted of a crime or even accused of a crime for her entire life. Her son was a Navy SEAL that was killed in a training accident, Remington Peters. To make that comparison was insane. I mean, she has done the right thing her entire life, and you're comparing her to and putting the drug addicts and everybody else and the alcoholics and everything else on a pedestal compared to her. Now, granted, I have compassion for everybody, and if you're willing to get your life straight, go for it. More power to you. But you can't disparage somebody that did the right thing their entire life and then, go to this point.
He can, because he's a judge and a giant piece of shit, trampled all over her constitutional rights. And, even though it was remanded back to him and he was supposed to resentence her, I think it's obvious the reason that he didn't is because they likely knew that this was going to happen. So it saved him the face of having to give her some lesser sentence, come back and admit that he had violated her constitutional rights, inappropriately sentenced her based upon her speech. And then they get to go ahead and pawn it off on Polis, who's leaving office anyway. Everybody else that's in state government in Colorado continues with the exact same narrative. This is why it's even more important now. If it was important before, it is vital now, not only for our country, but for Tina and for her legacy and for what's been done to her, for the truth about 2020 to come out. And obviously, it's not just 2020. This is a much bigger problem, but 2020 is emblematic of that much bigger issue that we have in the United States, which is the completely illegitimate nature of our election system.
Yep. And asso of all shows are why we vote now. So we're going to talk about that a little bit here in a second.
Welcome to Monday morning, why we vote.
Every show is why we vote now. All shows are why we vote now. Let's jump into this clip here of Crazy Eyes Griswold talking about the Tina Peters situation, because of course CNN ran to get her on to tell how dangerous Tina Peters is.
Time when our democracy is in crisis. In her statement, Tina Peters said, following this commutation, I misled the Secretary of State when allowing a person to gain access to county voting equipment. That was wrong. Going forward, I will make sure that my actions always follow the law. You are the Secretary of State. You were the Secretary of State when this happened. Do you believe her?
Absolutely not. This is someone who really basked in the celebrity of MAGA conspiracy-fueled craziness and used her actions to fuel lies and further disinformation about our elections. And those lies, those conspiracies have been used to attack elections and threaten election officials. I do not think that Tina Peters has shown remorse. I do believe in the judicial process. And as the governor said, the Court of Appeals did cite an issue with her sentencing and sent it back to the district court to resentence. Whatever that district court would have decided would have been fine. But I don't think that she should get special treatment. She has caused a lot of danger and damage in Colorado. But more than just that, this sends a message to Trump's followers that if they break the law, well, they might get off just fine. This sends a message to Donald Trump that if he retaliates hard enough, he'll be able to get a state to do his bidding. And this tells election officials that however hard we work, some people may just be above the law if they attack American democracy. That's a dangerous, dangerous message to send the country right now.
And of course, Jenna Griswold is running for attorney general because she definitely does not want anybody looking into the 6 months that the BIOS passwords for all but 2 county systems were posted on her website, and nobody can look into that. Now, the Tina Peters investigation, and I reposted my videos that I clipped a while back when Ash and I covered this on Alpha's show. The actual basis for the investigation, the criminal investigation in Tina Peters, began because the Secretary of State's office requested the district attorney's investigators come down there for a criminal investigation. Said, hey, we're giving you a tip that we're going down there to look at this, and it may be something criminal. You might want to tag along. The DA knew, and he said as much in the thing, that what they were alluding to was not a crime. They opened up this investigation based on something that was not a crime. Right. The entire investigation. And the basis of the investigation, none of that was charged. So tell me when this is starting to sound familiar. What was charged is when they get them in the room and they start talking about things, and she's like, well, she gets kind of caught up and she misleads them. She gives them a false statement. And then they arrest her for the false statement. So, I mean, we've seen that many times. General Flynn, for one, comes to mind immediately with the FBI. We were just going down there to have a discussion with them. And then you coerce them into basically making a false statement. Yeah. Very similar there. I'll let you jump in.
It's just the same playbook. I mean, like these people they're the same people, same groups. They're operating using that playbook, and they knew exactly what they intended to do. I mean, you identify the defendant, and then you construct the crime to suit that defendant because that person is so dangerous. And, here's the truth. Tina is dangerous to them. She was dangerous to them. Not dangerous to democracy, but she was dangerous to the system. She was dangerous to the criminals that were subverting our right to hold an election and to elect the person or people of our choice. That's what the danger was. And that's why Tina Peters had to be removed by them.
Yeah. Then, in addition to that, you also have, the unequal application of the law. And we've talked about this before in the show, but there was a state senator in Colorado named Sonia Jaquez Lewis who was under investigation for an ethics violation. And she had to go before a state Senate ethics committee. And it was a committee of 5 people. And in that investigation, she presented 3 letters to the board allegedly from constituents. I believe it was constituents. I'm not sure. It was other employees. It was other like municipal employees, and I believe they were also constituents, but they were professionals. Okay, these are people that gave her legitimacy if those letters were real. And 3 letters, and how many people were on the board, Brian? What was it, like 3 to 5? 5. Okay, so I mean, any other case, if this was Tina Peters, that would have been 15 different charges right there. But of course, they treated Sonia very differently because she was an elected Democrat. Right. So when you look at the comparison there, Lewis submitted 3 completely separate letters. So 3 different forgeries to 5 people. Now you can say that the 5 people were impaneled as one board. Okay, sure. So it's still 3 separate things presented to one board. Each one of those presentations should have been a felony charge of misrepresentation. Each one was a unique misrepresentation. By comparison, Tina made 1 misrepresentation to 3 people, all of whom were from the Secretary of State's office, essentially the same office at the same time in the same room. And she got charged for all 3 people that representation was made for. So Lewis got 1 felony count for making a misrepresentation to a public servant. Tina got 3. Lewis should have gotten more. Tina should have gotten just the 1 single one. Yeah. Now, by comparison, in terms of sentencing, and this goes to equal application of the law, Lewis was sentenced to probation. Tina was sentenced to 9.5 years. So again, when you look at the whole thing here, it's impossible not to look at, and I'm saying impossible, not to look at this as pure weaponization, even from the normiest of circumstances. But most people, most of the quote unquote normies, Jenna Griswold is not going to go out there and talk about Sonia Jaquez Lewis. No. CNN CNN is not going to go out there and talk about Sonia Jaquez Lewis in comparison to Tina Peters. Tina Peters was absolutely drug over the coals in that whole situation.
Yep. Disgusting.
All right, let's stay on elections here and play this clip here of Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche on Maria Bartiromo's show from yesterday. And this is a condensed version. We'll play tomorrow on Why We Vote. We'll play the long version and hash it out a little more. But check this out.
She just said that we're going to find out that President Trump actually did win certain states in the 2020 election. Now, the president says all the time that the election was rigged. What have you done about that? Do you have any evidence that the election was rigged? What can you tell us?
Well, there's a ton of evidence that the election was rigged. That's not something the DOJ needs to tell you about. There's been evidence about that for many, many years. What I can tell you is that we have multiple investigations going on in Arizona, in Georgia, in Fulton County, Georgia, and that's exactly what we're looking at. By the way, this is very difficult because they're very good. They're very good at hiding up misconduct and hiding what they're doing. And so that's why we're very focused on finding out whether the right people voted, whether people who were supposed to vote voted, whether there was one vote cast per voter. And that's what we're doing in multiple states. And I expect, and again, people, you'll say to me, how long has it taken? Why is it taking so long? And the reality, the answer to that is because it takes a lot of work to uncover what happened in 2020. It takes a lot of good old-fashioned law enforcement police work, which is what we're doing, and we have great prosecutors working on it as well. And I expect that, and I assure the American people that as soon as we have something to say for it, whether it's charges, whether it's a report, whether it's the results of an investigation, the American people will learn about what we've uncovered.
Yeah. So another.
I mean, I'm hopeful. I am very hopeful, but hearing some of the things that he's alluding to in that, I'm not quite as hopeful. You know, talking about numerous people voting more than once. Like, get out of here with that shit. We are so past people voting more than once. You know, when you look at Maricopa and you look at Fulton County and you look at Wisconsin, we're well beyond people that voted more than once. Like, don't give me that. That's not even low-hanging fruit. That's the rotten fruit that's on the ground that everybody has known about for decades in this country.
Well, I mean, as a counterpoint to that, Brian, I mean, considering that that's been widely discussed and admitted, and we've had people prosecuted for those things, that is what the DOJ would be able to talk about. They wouldn't be able to talk about the investigation with all of the other things that we know happened. I mean, like the real deep methodologies that were put in place to create the stolen election, those have not yet been prosecuted. So those cannot be openly discussed. But I feel like his language was pretty deliberate, and not only like admitting that everybody wants this and everybody knows that it happened. The investigation is happening. He has repeatedly said that the investigation into James Comey, that was over a year. Okay. And I think most people who are not in law enforcement look at that and they're like, why in the hell did that take over a year? Right. You know, I mean, but in doing the investigative work to look into Comey and to find additional evidence that backs up their assertion and the grand jury's belief that James Comey knowingly communicated that threat to President Trump, think about every other piece of investigative leads that they would have come across. And certainly if there was other investigations going on, and this is a much larger conspiracy, which Todd Blanche said, a lot of people freaking out about the statute of limitations. And he said, you know, unequivocally, I don't know that the statute of limitations has expired. And he specifically spoke to a grand conspiracy. So, you know, I understand that people want to hear certain things, but I also understand that the DOJ, when operating correctly, is constrained within certain boundaries. If he steps over those boundaries outside of what is legally permissible, he puts the entire case in jeopardy. And I would be very upset if Todd Blanche just wanted to get a good soundbite and go on Maria Bartiromo and give the people a piece of raw meat that they could chew on, if that meant that we were unable to bring these people to justice. Can you imagine? John Brennan, James Comey, James Clapper, Barack Obama, their lawyer shows up and plays a clip of him on Maria Bartiromo or on, Dan Bongino's podcast, and they say, based upon this statement, my client is never going to get a fair trial. You have to dismiss. How pissed would the people be?
Well, I agree. My point was I would rather the totally watered down generic response of it's an ongoing investigation and whatever then kind of trying to just force feed us the numerous voters that have voted illegally, the illegals on the rolls. Joe Biden never prosecuted a single illegal voter. We've prosecuted dozens. That's not going to get us there, and that's the same old that we've heard for quite some time now. And I also understand that Blanche is not directly involved, as far as I know, he's not directly involved in these investigations. I think it's Dan Bishop that's prosecuting this, or that's investigating, not prosecuting, investigating this, and some other investigators as well. So I'm sure he's getting briefed on updates and everything else like that, but he's not in the position to talk about it. I get it. But you had Cash coming out 2 weeks ago saying, look, watch out for arrests, So I don't know. We'll again, me and Ash will unpack this a lot more tomorrow night on why we vote. You did allude to the Russia segment of this interview, so we will play, and the grand conspiracy, we'll play that right here.
We're finding out some incredibly troubling things, and at some point at the right time that will be made public, and the American people will see exactly what happened to this administration and President Trump over the past decade.
Well, the country was ripped apart. We all know that. Half of the country said he colluded with Russia. The other half said, no, it didn't. It ripped the country apart. But you say when the time is right. When is the time right? When should we expect these charges of conspiracy?
Well, look, as has been publicly reported, the Southern District of Florida has an open criminal investigation. That involves hundreds of subpoenas. It involves hundreds of witnesses. And so as far as timing and when we can expect it, we are working hard and we are working efficiently, but we are going to do it right. We are not going to rush something that isn't ready. We're not going to reach a conclusion before our investigation is over. But I assure you, and I assure the American people, that we are completely focused on it.
Okay. Well, I don't know what is not ready. We've been watching this play out for a long time, and viewers and people watching are frustrated because it just keeps happening. Weaponization keeps happening because it's not corrected the time before. Now,
all right, so let me get that cleaned up there. So again, you don't want to rush something like this. We don't want it to turn into the Democrat witch hunt against President Trump through the third term or the first term of quote unquote Joe Biden, or the second term of Donald J. Trump. But you don't want to rush it. I understand that. We've also talked a lot about the conspiracy the grand conspiracy case, the Grand RICO, as it's been affectionately termed, taking place down in Florida. So on one hand, this weekend, Zach, you had Todd Blanche coming out and kind of playing one side of this. And then you have, on the exact opposite side, you had James Comey basically saying, just wait it out. Just wait it out.
Do you still talk to employees?
Oh, wait, maybe that's not the right clip.
Well, that is him admitting that he's having ongoing conversations with FBI deep state holdovers.
Yeah, this is the one I want to play. I have them out of order there. Actually, you know what? We can go back to that order. Let's go back to this order.
Is that the FBI regularly?
I do.
And are they afraid to be talking to you?
Yes. Matter of fact, they're under siege. And I think about them a lot. I worry about them a lot, both those who are still there and those who've been thrown out while loved ones are sick, while they're struggling financially. There's a lot of pain at the FBI and the FBI community right now, but it's not going to last forever.
It's not going to last forever. And then he goes on to say, basically, just hang on for 2.5 years.
Not looked at from the top level. The people running it, if you're bragging about forcing out career prosecutors and agents because the president doesn't like a lawful investigation they conducted, something is seriously broken at the top. But I have great confidence in the people down below who are just trying to hang on. And I'm urging them, hang on. 2.5 years, and then we can rebuild these institutions. But we need good people in those roles. America does.
All right.
2.5 years, and we can rebuild Those institutions. You mean the institutions that completely and totally made up a criminal case against President Trump in the Stormy Daniels situation, or devalued Mar-a-Lago from the $500 million property it is down to a meager $18 million in order to get him for loans that had been paid back in full with a victim who's totally wanting to continue doing business with President Trump in his professional capacity. But yes, please tell me more, Mr. Comey, about how it's being. This was so blatantly obvious, Zach, that I almost, kind of buy into he might have turned state's witness a little bit here. Or,
I think that's definitely a possibility. And here's the other thing. I mean, he's admitting to having these conversations. Every single one of those conversations is subject to subpoena. I would be very surprised if those weren't being cataloged and weren't being, added to the record.
Exactly.
So if James Comey is reaching out and getting these people to talk unwittingly, and I mean that's a pretty big deal.
Exactly. It's the kind of subtle things that he's saying in these that are giving that ammunition, right? Just putting rounds in the DOJ's chamber to go after this and push even harder. And again, the amount of panic we've seen from these people over the last, couple weeks, I'll refresh you with this clip of Brennan.
What still exists in the system to slow that down?
Well, I think as Liz mentioned, there's still a legion of professionals in the law enforcement environment, the Department of Justice, as well as the CIA and other places, the ones who are refusing to follow politically motivated prosecutions, those who are refusing to support any type of political activities on the part of the Trump administration that are inconsistent with the authorities, the responsibilities of the intelligence community, law enforcement community, and Department of Justice. So we have to rely on these individuals to stand up to their professional responsibilities, and also to the courts, to the judges, to those judges who in fact took an oath of allegiance to the law, not to a political party, not to a person. And, I'd like to think that there are still some members of Congress. Certainly, I'm looking for the Republicans who at one point had spoken out against Donald Trump and had spoken in support of the law, but they seem to have just totally caved.
So again, you're getting all of these, subtle confessions about, what we've obviously known. It's not even a question of been saying. We've known for years about this deep state, this bureaucratic bloat, the fish rotting from the head down. And you're getting all these acknowledgments now.
That's right. If they are actually having these conversations with John Brennan or James Comey, they are supremely stupid or they're supremely arrogant. And the other possibility here is that either James Comey or John Brennan are using this opportunity to go on these news programs and to send messages to these people. Just because it's true. The deep state's real. This fifth column exists all throughout the federal government. And this is exactly what we saw in President Trump's first term. They called it the resistance back then.
Yep.
The seventh floor group may have been disbanded, but those people are all still having conversations and they're all still directing people in their own way. So, it's a huge problem. And this is one of the things that I point to consistently. Trump and the team are aware of this. Okay. They're not stupid people. If we don't get accountability, if we don't clean out that rot, then they will just rise up again. In 2.5 years, all bets are off. And everything that he's done, everything the administration has done to clean this out, to roll it back, all of the activism that we've done out here on the outside, it'll all be for naught.
Yep. Go ahead.
I just don't believe that they would allow that to happen.
And I just want to real quick, since we're rehashing all of the admissions of the quote unquote deep state, this was the under oath testimony last week from Jim Erdman.
The CIA illegally monitored the computer and phone usage. The CIA illegally monitored the computer and phone usage of DIG personnel, their investigations, and contact with whistleblowers. These were Americans being spied upon illegally while executing duties directed by the president and under the authority of the Director of National Intelligence. one CIA contractor assisting with the Diggs investigation into the events that transpired between 2022 and 2023 was fired by the CIA one day after meeting with the Dig.
So just again, as you have Comey saying, hey, you guys got to hang on for 2.5 years. I've been in contact with the personnel at FBI. John Brennan saying, yes, we still got good people, his term, good people, in the DOJ, in the CIA, in the FBI, and in law enforcement and everything else. As all of that is being admitted by them, you have the CIA whistleblower coming forward and saying that they are actively spying on their superiors, not just President Trump and the Dig, but, DNI officials. And I haven't seen anything reported on this, Zach, on that segment from Erdman. And to me, that was the most absolutely mind-blowing segment of that entire testimony, was that portion right there. Everybody got caught up on the CIA is raiding the DNI. It's like, who cares about that? They were spying on them as they're talking with whistleblowers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's thoroughly unsurprising to me. I mean, I just kind of expect that the CIA is doing that sort of scummy shit on the regular. But yeah, I thought it was highly notable that, and like, he's still working at the CIA, he's still come forward. And, I don't think in any way that it means that the entirety of the CIA was doing this. I mean, the CIA is the same as the FBI or any of these other federal agencies. You've got good men and women and bad men and women. You've got patriots and you've got the fifth column. You've got the good twin, the evil twin. And all of that must be rooted out. Every single one of them needs to be exposed. And, the reason you don't see that reported on is, frankly, many of that evil element of the CIA is who we have embedded in the mainstream media. And I don't know, I can't really account for the rest of the independent media, or for, just regular people out there that are kind of taking note of this. But, I don't know, maybe it simply was the explosive nature of the idea of the so-called raid, which, wasn't a raid. A raid implies that there was some sort of legal pressure or effect behind what the CIA did. They just came in and got the boxes, and they didn't have to overpower anybody. They didn't have to come in and have weapons drawn. It was, in my opinion, illegal because those documents are under an executive order. The DNI is supposed to oversee the CIA. The DNI is supposed to have, legal authority, and that's a check and balance on the intelligence community. So, hopefully something is being done about it from behind the scenes. But one of the big problems that the CIA has, and one of the reasons that we don't see this stuff really dealt with, is because of, I think, this sort of arrogance at the agency. There's this like all-pervasive egotistical attitude that runs through the actions of the CIA, as if they are above the law. And to be frank, they have been.
Yep. All right, let's go ahead and hit a couple sponsors, and then we'll get back into the news. We'll stay on this topic kind of in a roundabout way. But all right, let's go ahead and talk about our friends over at Rumble Wallet. We hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part that most people miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control your money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you are in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you felt that problem. Now, fast forward to today. Everyone's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. And that's exactly why we use Rumble Wallet. It takes all that complexity and makes it simple. Choose what you want, whether it's Bitcoin, dollar-backed stable coins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. There's no complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, or even your bank and be up and running in just minutes. Once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like us directly. So do this now. You can scan the QR code, or you can click the link in the description and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet. You can tap buy, and boom, you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. All right. Thank you to Rumble wallet. And then, of course, let's go ahead and let's hear from Zak Paine.
Today, we remember those who gave everything. And memory is never still.
This Memorial Day! One hero, one mission to deliver softness to America!
No, Gigi, we can't stop for snacks, dude. We have to deliver all of these soft disclosure gift cards.
He goes by Zak Paine.
The motion detector!
Hey, stop fighting over the beer brush.
Life finds a way.
Hydrate your elbows, moisturize your soul. Feel the rhythm together. You feel alive and let the lotion roll. Soft disclosure, hear the cry. Maximum softness, do or die.
Muffin, hit it.
All right, softdisclosure.com, promo code Memorial15. Hydrate your elbows and moisturize your soul. Zach, Christy and I have an ongoing bet. Can you do an air split?
No, absolutely cannot do an air split. But I love that commercial. 100%. Green Star is so talented. That was freaking sweet.
So did you have to do like any mapping or anything for him?
I sent him a couple of pictures. I sent him some pictures of the dogs. I sent him a couple of like lines he had me read, and then he used that to clone my voice. And then of course, you know, he used Muffin Gate. He actually used Muffin Gate for those sound effects.
All right, absolutely epic commercial. All right, let's get back into the news. And there was this clip here of trigger warning. I'm just kidding. Kamala Harris laying out the blueprint. This is what they plan to do. I mean, they've told us many times, but no bad ideas, guys.
Say, look, this is a moment.
Oop. Hey.
The moment where there are no bad ideas. A no bad idea brainstorm is what I'd like to call it. And in that no bad ideas brainstorm, we talk about what we need to do and think about doing around the Electoral College.
Good luck.
We talk about the idea of Supreme Court reform, which includes expanding the Supreme Court. We invite a conversation about multi-members districts. We talk about, that if we win the Senate, which we should and we will, then the Senate Judiciary Committee should have rules that they put in place so when these people come before as nominees to the Supreme Court and lie, that they are held to account and consequence. Not just that somebody goes on cable news and says they lied, but that there are rules in place to actually penalize people for lying to a Senate Judiciary Committee. That we agree that it is right to have ethics rules for Supreme Court justices. And let's put those in place. Let's talk about statehood for Puerto Rico and DC. These are the things I think that we've got to do. We've got to neutralize these red states from cheating, including blue states expanding their maps. And all of this, I think.
Oh, man. I don't know if she was saying we got to stop red states from cheating, including blue states from expanding their maps. Is she saying that we need blue states to expand their maps to stop the cheating, or is she saying that the blue states expanding their maps is part of that cheating?
Well, if red states have a voice, then that is tantamount to cheating. So blue states need to expand their maps to give us more seats in the House so that we can then, through a legislative process, overpower any influence that a red state might have. And what the hell is she talking about? If you testify before a committee, aren't you placed under oath? If you lie, then that counts as perjury. So what is she even suggesting was lied about during confirmation hearings? I mean, like, who lied about what?
Hold on one second. I got to check something, man.
I think that, obviously she's, this is so funny to hear from somebody like her accusing others of cheating, because up until very recently, the idea that cheating existed in any respect was laughable. Okay, oh, there's no cheating. Our system is perfect. But now that they're being beat at their own game within a very rigged system, suddenly it's us who are cheating. Suddenly it's the Republicans who are cheating. And so we got to stop that. We got to stop them from being able to exert their influence, because, we're scum, guys. Don't you know that? Like, we shouldn't even be allowed to have an opinion. The democratic process only works when our will is subverted. That's what Kamala Harris thinks.
I'm with you. I'm just trying to find something real quick, because somebody brought up a point and I thought the same exact thing, and I probably won't go there. Yeah, let's not go there. I'd have to dig a little bit more on that, but it's kind of strange. Yeah, but her coming out, this is like the second or third time now, if you go through the comments on that post about that video, this no bad idea thing, right? And the Senate will win. Again, this would be the ultimate rug on election fraud, is, all this Calais redistricting and all that stuff, and still they somehow pull down an epic, blue wave, like they did in 2018, or they claim to have in 2018. Yeah, it would be absolutely epic. They're going to have to do it without Virginia again. The Supreme Court, just in one sentence, the application for stay presented to the Chief Justice and by him referred to the court is denied. And that's referring to the Virginia Supreme Court's decision. Abigail Spanberger, the CIA governor, of course, says the Supreme Court of the U.S. has now joined the Supreme Court of Virginia in choosing to nullify an election in the votes of more than 3 million Virginians. These Virginians made their voices heard, casting their ballots in good faith to push back against a president who said he's entitled to more seats in Congress before voters go to the polls. As governor, I'll make sure that voters know when and how to cast their votes this year, because our votes are how we choose the representation we deserve. Isn't that rich, saying that the president said he's entitled to more seats in Congress, and then they changed all their own internal constitutional rules within the state to take away seats from him that were actually fairly divided?
I mean, those were questionable to begin with. I mean, like the districts were already bad, but bad in the wrong way, apparently. And so, yes, they needed to steal everything and gerrymander the hell out of that map. Yeah, it's totally ridiculous. I mean, these people, the reason you have Abigail Spanberger and Kamala Harris coming out with statements like that is because they realize that they're up against the ropes. They realize that if they don't broadcast their intentions and get this really, really pushed as far as they can, then they're not going to be successful. I think that they are extremely nervous about what's going to happen in the midterms. And I also think that the administration and the election integrity apparatus is waiting. It's waiting for them to make these mistakes. And I think, I've said for a long time that based upon the nature of the news cycle, the attention span of the average person nowadays, the perfect time to expose all of this is within a certain amount of time before the midterm elections. If we're going to have elections that are influenced by these criminal acts, then they have to be fresh in the minds of people. And this is also the time that we would be able to have an administration and an apparatus in place to catch them in the act. And if we're going to expose all of it, then we have to do it like this, I think.
Let me see if I can find, real quick. I think it's right here. So my friend put up a post this weekend, and I want to highlight this. Oh, here it was. It was in response to, I think it was in response to Jeff Clark's post. Yes, there it is. So he put out this response. And so Jeff Clark, the one that was persecuted, disbarred, Trump's assistant attorney general. He goes on to say it's because Greg Nunziata is infiltrating pretend conservatives like George Conway, who finally gave up his fake cover as a conservative and is running for Congress as a Democrat. There are tons of those people now, those at the Society of the Rule of Law, the Bulwark, the Lincoln Project, and on and on. Of course, they're on the flip side. No crypto conservative organization posing as leftist organizations. And to the response to that, my friend Kevin Moncla wrote, 100%. I woke up one day realizing that I have primarily been fighting against quote unquote Republican office holders for election integrity. But Brad Raffensperger, Chris Carr, Stephen Richer are nothing more than Trojan horse infiltrators. I honestly have more respect for Stacey Abrams.
I love it.
And, for those that don't know, probably I would say an overwhelming majority of the investigation that's taking place right now in Fulton County is a lot because of Kevin's work. And, this is somebody that, I've been talking with and been friends with for the last 5 years on this. And it is Republicans that have been the biggest bulwarks against being able to get anything done in the election integrity movement. And so, Zach, to your point, what you were saying earlier, this would be the perfect election cycle. I want to expose on both sides here.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that we get some of that, doing my best to try and, make that happen. But
well, I mean, the investigation in Arizona, Stephen Richer inevitably is going to be caught up in that. I mean, we're looking at public officials, regardless of party. And certainly Georgia is going to fall within that category as well.
Look at this story that just dropped this morning, dude. I can't believe this, man. You see it? Read that headline for me.
Georgia investigators killed 2020 election probe at Kemp's request, unsealed testimony claims.
Yeah. May 18th. Little disappointed, but it is what it is.
Wait, what are you disappointed? That the testimony being unsealed and Raffensperger being exposed.
Kemp.
And Kemp, sorry.
Oh, only Kemp, mainly Kemp. Raffensperger's not mentioned. We broke that story at Badlands in February.
Oh, okay. Okay. I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was.
So that is okay. Now I get it. I didn't look at the date on the article.
Today, May 18th. Today.
Just like party, guys.
Just like the 315,000 unsigned tabulator tapes that I broke like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But hey, timing is everything. And the more eyes we get on it, I always said that I'm not, I appreciate the personal knowledge that we were first here at Badlands to put that out. And, I broke that story. That's one of the few stories I've written for the Substack. But we broke that back in February. I think it was like February 20th or something here at Badlands. And that story's insane. I'll probably do a rehash on that now that the Federalist has that story out as well. Hat tip to Mark Davis for putting it back out there in the mainstream. Because the more eyes we get on these stories, the better it is. We need everybody, all hands on deck. All right, so Politico put this out. Bill Cassidy loses Senate primary in another major win for President Trump. And Bill Cassidy has been just an absolute disaster in Louisiana. Speaker Johnson had this to say about it.
It's true that President Trump has a huge influence in our state, as he does still across the country. And you see that over and over in all these elections. It's the most powerful endorsement in the history of politics, and it continues to be shown.
One of the headlines this morning said that this win and the ousting of Senator Cassidy shows that there's no room for dissent within the GOP. What do you make of that?
Well, I don't know. You see dissent here every day. I mean, I deal with it all day long with the smallest margin in U.S. history, working through people's philosophical differences and preferences. But, this is a vibrant party. It's a strong party. We're in great position to win the midterms, defy history and win the midterms. And we're excited about that, working every day to make sure that happens so we can keep this agenda going to bring America back.
So the dissent thing, I mean, obviously we're seeing a huge dissent right now within the Republican Party, but more so I would call it within MAGA itself. And, the finger pointing and everything else is just hilarious to sit back and watch from the outside. But if you want to comment on that, you can go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm glad glad to see that Bill Cassidy is going to be going away. I think it was inevitable, and I think it does show that there's a difference between dissenting opinion and obstruction and outright attempts to destroy President Trump and stop making America great. And I think that that's what Bill Cassidy was involved in, and his departure is necessary.
Yep. I agree. So at one point, you have, Speaker Johnson, and that says we have the smallest majority in the history of Congress. And so just real quick, an update. This was back in April where Representative Tom Kean, who's been missing for over 2 months, I think now.
Yeah.
He's missed like over 60 House votes, and nobody has any proof of life whatsoever other than, some statements that are published as social media. Well, yeah. So CNN put this article out or over the weekend. GOP congressman is under doctor's care, his father says, amid serious absence from Washington. It says that Representative Tom Kean Jr.'s father, former New Jersey Governor Tom Kean Sr., is seeking to offer assurances that his son will be returning soon, but he declined to offer any specifics as to why the congressman has been out of the public eye for more than 2 months. He said his son is recovering from what he described as a serious temporary illness. Now, I don't know if you know anything else about that, Zach, but that is unacceptable.
Well, I agree with you. Sounds like you might be in rehab.
Could be.
Because, yes, and I'm not saying conclusively, but like if he was undergoing chemo or, maybe if he had like an operation to address something, that's normally the type of thing they would have no problem talking about. Right. But you have a personal medical issue, and historically it's meant that, maybe you need to go away for, some rehab and some time to reflect and get yourself sober. So,
and let's just cover this story real quick because I have a comment on that. So People magazine put this out as well. 83-year-old Congresswoman misses full month of votes as her staff reposts photos to social from last year. This is talking about Frederica Wilson, Democrat, 83 years old, down here in Miami. She has not voted since April 17th. Her official social media presence, however, has continued on, even posting photos from October of 2025. And got those photos right here. Jamie Dupree put this out on X, highlighting that on May 12th, he posted this West Point, this like service academy event that she allegedly attended. And it was the same exact photos from back in October 4th, just kind of mixed up a little bit.
Yeah. Now, she might have had a stroke or an aneurysm or something like that, and they're just hoping that she wakes up. And so they're keeping her vote warm, essentially, so that there isn't a need to replace her. The Democrats have done this on a number of occasions, essentially just like kept the body warm so that they don't have to lose the vote. I think that that's more likely with Wilson.
So they did put out this photo, and she's holding a check here that appears to be dated May 7th, 2026 for the Delta Sigma sorority Theta Incorporated, whatever the crap it is. They also put out another one here on International Nurses Day with a picture of her back to the camera. By the way, what congresswoman would ever put a picture of their back to the camera? They love the camera. Their eyes are automatically drawn to the camera. They got to have their full profile in there, smiling and everything else. But they show a weird picture of the back of her. So again, I don't know, what to make of it. But when you're when you're a public servant, like, and going back to Tom Kean, I'm with you on, he should have his privacy while he's in rehab or whatever the case might be, if that's the case. And we're not saying it is.
No.
But when you miss X number of votes, when you're, no longer being a representative of your constituents, you have a duty and an obligation to inform them in the most thorough detail possible.
Yes.
Why. And telling us, I had a medical issue and it's serious, but it's temporary is not adequate enough.
No, it's not. No, totally unacceptable.
Agreed. Especially, I mean, when you have, now I don't think we've had any votes that have come down to, just one vote from the GOP, but if that case were to arise, that would be unexcusable. Also, you're not putting your input on these bills that we know of. So yeah.
Yep.
Then just real quick, I want to play this clip just because I couldn't happen to a better person. Steve Cohen backing out of his race in Tennessee, excuse me.
It's funny. My press conference today is the most cameras I think I've had since the Victoria incident, and here we are again. And I got tears.
Well, and that too, Steve. But you're crying for the right reason in both cases. You were crying about Victoria, and people can look that up and remind themselves, because you didn't want to see her hurt. And you're crying now, again, not for Steve Cohen. You're crying because you know what your service meant to that community and that they needed it, especially in that state. And it was taken, and it was unfair, just like what happened with Victoria. And that's always been what you've been about. I don't care what party, and you know how I feel about the parties. Your heart is about helping. And I know that about you. And that's why you get emotional, even though you're a tough son of a bitch. So I'm glad that people get to see it, and I'm here for you. All right? Thank you for your service.
I've got a great district, wonderful people. They've supported me so well. It's an amazing thing that African-American community supported me for 20 years like they did, and the Republicans don't see it, and they just tear it apart because they have no perspective of caring about African-Americans or caring about people getting together and anything nice that happens. It's a tough sport, and they play it tough. Thank you, Chris.
Well, you are right. You are right. The problem is it's a sport, and it wasn't when you got into it. When you got into
Yeah, bullshit. It's always been a sport.
It's always
been a sport. I would challenge to go back historically and look at Memphis, Tennessee, his district, and historically, has it gotten any better over 20 years? Because I would think up until President Trump sent in the feds to clean up the crime and all of that stuff, it hasn't gotten any better. And the poverty doesn't get any better instantly. The crime gets better real quick. The poverty won't, but it will start to get better as you have less and less crime and people are able to go about their business and they're able to maintain their possessions and they're not, constantly in and out of court and in and out of jails. It will get better over time, but Steve Cohen has not done any of that as far as I know.
No, the only thing I know Steve Cohen for is showing up with a bucket of KFC for a congressional hearing. I mean, Steve Cohen's tears are not for the people of his district. They're for the fact that he is losing any sense of relevance that he may have possessed for the last 20 years. If he wants to continue, living the life that he's accustomed to, he's going to have to reinvent himself. He's going to have to get a real job. Maybe he won't. Maybe he has grifted enough over the last 20 years. But Steve Cohen was defined by that position. And his position was one of celebrity rather than one of public service.
Yep. I agree with you 100%. He is not, I don't feel like he's, he's backing out of the race. He's not standing up and saying, you know what? They changed the lines.
Yeah.
They made it harder. But you know what? When life gets harder, you put your head down and you grind away. You get to work. And I don't see him doing that. I see him backing out like a coward. And I think there is a possibility that we see a rug on this in the 2026 midterms. We know our elections are widely manipulated and incredibly fake. And so, do you think every single district that we've redrawn maps for is somehow all of a sudden going to become a red district? Absolutely not. I think we're going to see some of them that don't go the way that they thought it was going to go for them.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. And if Steve Cohen had a record that he could stand on, if the people of this area really appreciated Steve Cohen, then he would be able to run. He could use his name recognition. He could use his record. He could point to his accomplishments. But for the first time in 20 years, he's going to have a real challenge. And it's also going to be a black woman. So, what's he supposed to do? Right. I mean, like, he's just got to walk away because he is a coward. He doesn't have something that he can point to say, look what I have done for this district, other than be here for 20 years without any major challenges.
You mean the old Jewish guy couldn't stand on a debate stage with the black conservative woman and just throw everything at her anymore? And just, pander to, eat the KFC on the House floor. He couldn't do all that to Charlotte Bergman? No way.
Yeah.
No way.
It's a lot harder to cry racism and misogyny when it's a black woman who's going to be challenging you.
Amen. Yeah. All right. So let's, before we move on here, guys, I do want to just kind of reset here. We got a little over 3,800 people watching. Please smash that thumbs up. And if you're just lurking in the background, you don't normally chat, pop in, say hello. It helps us out a lot with the algorithm on Rumble. If you're on YouTube, same thing. Just pop in, say hello. I'm going to pull up the YouTube chat over here on the side and take a little monitor, a little gander at it. And let's go ahead and jump into this story from the New York Post. And this story is kind of interesting here, Zach. This is the Amy Bach, Ilhan Omar story. So Minnesota squad rep Ilhan Omar knew about $250 million COVID meal fraud. Scheme mastermind claims in a jailhouse interview. Now, I don't know, I know you and I both know pretty well about this story and everything, but I there's things in here that I learned about, like, Amy Bach trying to blow the whistle on this. Yeah. And, if that's true, this is pretty concerning.
Certainly concerning for Ilhan Omar.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But
government employees.
Well, but even for Amy Bach, like, how much was Amy Bach aware of, now granted, that's not an excuse. No. Ignorance is not an excuse for the crimes. I'm not saying that, but so let's jump into this. It says Amy Bach, during a phone call or a video interview with the New York Post, said, quote, "I struggle to believe that she would not have known," meaning Omar would not have known. The New York Post writes, Bach has consistently denied knowingly participating in the fraud and insisted that she tried to warn state officials. Her group would review the reimbursement paperwork sent by the local restaurants that are supposed to provide the meals, send them out, and then distribute the federal funds to them. She says, quote, "The notion that I'm personally responsible for all of it is so frustrating. I'm the only white person out of 80 to 90 individuals charged in the fraud. I'm the only one who doesn't speak the native language," she added. Omar was instrumental in loosening the laws that set the stage for the scheme. First, by introducing the Meals Act in March of 2020, which allowed the USDA to issue waivers of school meal requirements during the pandemic. This dramatically eased oversight of the federal programs by allowing restaurants to participate without any of the usual site inspections. Omar would personally step in whenever those waivers ran out, allowing the rampant fraud to continue, Bach alleges. The Congresswoman's name came up at least 6 times in emails and text messages presented as court exhibits in Bach's 2025 federal trial. According to Bach, the 6 email exchanges with Omar were about help with the waivers after Feeding Our Futures had reached out. Somali eateries would join in, like Safari, where Omar herself joined into the Feeding Our Futures scheme, where Omar herself filmed a promotional video claiming that, quote, "Every day Safari provides 2,300 meals to children and their families." She also held her 2018 election night party at Safari restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Safari claimed to be feeding 5,000 kids per day. Its co-owner has been convicted of defrauding the government of $16 million, the highest sum in the scheme. Now, here's where it gets a little interesting if you go back to the 2022 election cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Bach said she reported suspicious restaurants to Minnesota officials, who she said showed little interest in going after the Somali community. They were trying to woo back the ethnic enclave after its Muslim leaders, turned off by the left's embrace of transgender rights and abortion, started turning to the GOP.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, "I have the emails that show I told you, so you knew," she said, of the 2021 missives reviewed by the Post, where she reported fraudulent businesses to the state's Department of Education. We've heard a lot about the whistleblowers from the State Department of Education that said we tried to expose this as well, but we were stopped. This is going all the way to the top.
Now, here's the other thing: are these emails part of Amy Bach's communications that were not allowed to be entered into the record during her trial? Because I certainly did not hear about that during her trial. Did not hear about it until this article.
That's a fantastic point, because that's where I was going with this, is that I had never heard about Amy Bach trying to blow the whistle on this.
No. And what she said makes total sense. I mean, she is the only person who didn't speak whatever Somali tongue those people speak. However, she did have a Somali boyfriend who was driving around in a Bentley. So, I mean, like, there was definitely money coming in, and she was definitely enjoying the proceeds of those things. But, I mean, it is definitely exculpatory if she was attempting to get this information across and it was simply ignored, and then she became the scapegoat for the entire thing at the end of the day. I think they also said in there, one of those restaurants that Omar was associated with had at one time claimed to have served 21,000 children in a single day.
That's in the next paragraph. Yeah.
Preposterous.
So again, to the point that we're making here, does somebody approach Amy Bach and say, "Hey, we've got this great idea. We're gonna feed all these communities." And Amy Bach says, "Okay, I've got the infrastructure, whatever. We can make this happen."
Yeah.
So she has, people below her that go out and they're doing this, and she's running the business, right? She's running the nonprofit, and so she's not down there on the ground every single day. I don't know. I'm speculating here. But when she does,
the executive director, so yeah, she would have been in office, right?
Right, in an office, right. And so when she sees these things coming across here, and she's like, "Hey, 21,000 meals a day, this doesn't look right. Let me send this to the State Department or to the Department of Education at the state, and like let them know what's going on here." And so in response to that, so she says, "I have emails that show that I told you. So you knew," she said, of the 2021 missives reviewed by the Post, where she reported the fraudulent businesses to the state's Department of Education. Quote, "I struggled to believe that we notified them and they didn't alert the governor or our state or federal officials," Bach added. In one August 2021 email chain, Minnesota's Department of Education Director of Nutrition Program Services writes to Bach that the department, quote, "takes no position if fraud has taken place," end quote, after she reported that St. Paul's House of Refuge was claiming to have served 21,000 meals per day. So look, I mean, if I'm doing something and I'm overseeing a project and that's federally funded or government funded, and I think something's going on here with this project, and I'm like, "Hey, are we doing this right? Like, you might want to look into this. Like, I'm trying to tell you that there might be something shady here." And they write you back and they're like, "We don't care. It's not our thing." Then, like, that's permission to keep going.
Oh, absolutely it is. I mean, it makes it look even more like Amy Bach is just simply a patsy at the end of the day. They had to put it on somebody. Yeah.
Big time. That's what I'm getting at with this. Now, granted, this is only her side of the story, and somebody that's in prison, locked up, facing sentencing is going to say whatever they can. But I almost want to go back and look through her trial and see if these emails were presented, if this narrative was presented.
Yeah. I would probably say no, because I think we would have heard about it before this, because during the course of the trial, they have, entirely put the onus on people like her and the owners of these restaurants. But, as the executive director, her fiduciary duty would have been to do exactly what she did. All right. I mean, like, she is under, the pressure of this program. People are submitting their billables, essentially their receipts and their claims to having done all of this. And it's not her job to go out and visit every single site and make sure that on any given day, the receipts that are being presented are exactly as they occurred on the ground.
Yeah. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
She goes on to say, quote, "That's my biggest regret," Bach said, "accepting the answers that the government doesn't take a position on fraud. I don't think I comprehended just the magnitude of how important that statement would be," end quote. Go ahead. Oh, I thought you were going to say something. My bad.
No.
Omar and fellow Democrats, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and AG Keith Ellison, quote, "played critical roles in creating and enabling the fraud." Concluded the state committee's report that earlier this week, prosecutors are seeking a 100-year sentence for Bach. He's hoping to get closer to time served and maintains that the government used her as a scapegoat, a patsy, as we like to call it.
Yeah. Now, so was Amy Bach's charges, were those federal or were they state?
I believe they were state.
Because there's obviously a federal investigation going on right now. And I sincerely hope that the DOJ is in contact with her, because obviously she would have a lot to say. And if her case, it was a federal case. Okay. Well, in that case, then, I hope that the prosecutors are speaking to her. I mean, it's insane to me that it went on the way that it did.
Now, the other part of that was interesting was the part where, they said, keep it hush hush. We're trying to revive our image in this community, right? Because do you remember 2022? Do you remember this, Zach?
Don't do this, please. No, please.
Do you remember that?
Never saw this, no.
So this was 2022 during her reelection campaign, and this was on Somali Independence Day, and this was at a concert in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, specifically celebrating Somali independence. And Ilhan Omar got up on stage before the headliner and got booed off the stage.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah,
by the Somali crowd, to the point where, like, you hear the guy in the background, he's saying, "Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this," as they're booing Ilhan Omar.
Yeah.
Don't do this, please. No, please. Okay.
I mean, they were definitely trying to revamp her image.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
for sure. Man, that's
how she goes down.
That is nuts, man. Go ahead.
Nothing, dude. I'm just the same as you, Brian. I'm just the same as everybody in the audience. Ilhan Omar, I believe that there is a serious criminal investigation. I know people get hung up on, well, they never say they're prosecuting. Prosecution doesn't come until after they get the indictment. Okay. Once she's indicted, then she'll be in the process of prosecution. Right now, it's investigative. And I think that there are many different crimes that Ilhan Omar is actively being investigated for. And she needs to be indicted. She needs to be prosecuted. She needs to be stripped of her congressional seat. She needs to be denaturalized, and she needs to be shipped back to Somalia. And they can send her to be dealt with by whatever Somali government is in charge right now.
Yep. All right, let's jump into this story. I've been putting this story off for a couple days just because we tend to run out of time. And I covered the Paul Thacker report on this, but White Coast Waste Project put this story out a couple weeks ago, and we got some movement on it. We got a couple legislators that have now been posting about this over the weekend and just before. Exclusive whistleblower alleges NIH in full cover-up mode over a monkey bite and virus smuggling scandal. So when we covered the Paul Thacker report, the Misinformation Chronicles Substack, we didn't cover the monkey bite. The only thing it talked about was Munster, the guy at Rocky Mountain Labs, smuggling in live virus samples, or allegedly live virus samples from Africa, undeclared. Okay, undeclared. That's the key right there. Undeclared.
Yeah.
So in this letter, it says a whistleblower letter alleges that the NIH animal lab is in full cover-up mode, quote unquote, full cover-up mode, over a dangerous monkey bite accident and an apparent international virus smuggling incident that reportedly led to an ongoing FBI investigation. The letter states that Vincent Munster, quote, got caught trying to sneak VHF, viral hemorrhagic fever, samples into the United States from Africa, and that NIH officials, quote, did not inform the Rocky Mountain Labs campus and went into full cover-up mode, end quote. The source claims that Munster and two colleagues traveling with him were quietly banned from the Rocky Mountain Labs campus. Additionally, the new whistleblower complaint alleges that a monkey bite was the cause of an incident first uncovered by White Coast Waste Project in January that exposed an RML lab staffer to Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, a deadly foreign virus used by NIH for maximum pain experiments on monkeys. The accident was, quote unquote, hidden from most of RML's employees, and the exposed lab worker was, quote unquote, flown out to avoid suspicion. Now, the reason that that's so interesting to me, Zach, is last week when Tulsi Gabbard announced the probe into the biolabs that the U.S. has been running abroad, it rehashed the old Ukraine story, the 34 biolabs in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And last week when we covered it, I went back and looked at my 2022 archives and looked at the Ukraine embassy's active research projects. And I pointed out that hantaviruses were on there, given all the stuff we've seen about hantavirus. And it's one of 4 bullet points under the active projects. Then I realized after reading this, quote, the prevalence of Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever virus and hantaviruses in Ukraine is part of their active projects.
Yes.
What are the odds that amidst the 2026 election, we have hantavirus stories and Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever stories in the mainstream? Well, in the news. I'm not going to say mainstream because White Coast Waste Project isn't exactly mainstream, but you've got congressmen and women talking about it now. What are the odds?
I think the odds are pretty good when you realize there's no such thing as a coincidence. And these various viruses have been worked on because they would be something they could possibly inject into the population through a variety of different vectors. So the fact that I did cover the monkey bite, and the idea that that would have happened and then they wouldn't have said anything about it. They would have kept it as hush-hush as possible. I think that that's obviously because they didn't want anybody to know that they were working on a weaponized strain of this stuff. And if they admit it, well, then they have to also admit the way in which this research is going on. Hantavirus, keep that quiet until all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you've got hantavirus coming up in the news. This is obviously the next plandemic. I think it's failing, but this is what they're trying to do, is to give people this sense of fear that, oh my God, you're going to get this mouse poop virus, and everybody's going to have to stay home, and we're going to have to do a whole bunch of mail-in ballots again. Don't worry, it's totally normal.
Well, I said last week when I was covering it, I said the one thing that they got wrong with COVID and the rollout of all the COVID narratives and everything else and the policies, they did it way too early. Doing COVID in March, by the time November rolled around 6-7 months later, we were over it.
Yeah.
If you're going to do this, it has to be a true emergency. It has to be while we were still in the confusion of March, April COVID, right? Most people had no idea what it was, had no idea what was going on. We were getting all the propaganda forced down our throats and everything else. If that 2020 election were in April instead of November, you would have been much easier to sell it to the broad American, normie public, which is 98% of Americans are in that sphere. This time around, first and foremost, I don't think they'll be able to sell it. Like you're not going to see this on full display for a few more months, right? Yeah. It's now May. I would say if you're going to deploy this, you got to do it like early August is going to be the official deployment if they're going to try it. And they always kind of They always kind of seed these potential narratives before a midterm election, whether it's Ebola, H1N1, swine flu, avian flu, monkeypox, COVID, whatever, they it's like they keep it on the back burner if we need to use it.
Yeah.
And this might be the case where they need to use it.
Think that once again, it's going to be a gigantic failure because I just don't think that the people are going to fall for this.
Well, the reason that I think and I don't think the people are going to fall for this, but the thing that they're hoping, I think, if they do use something like Crimean hemorrhagic fever or even hantavirus, is the exponentially larger fatality rate over COVID.
Absolutely. Yeah. They will lean into it. I mean, the World Health Organization obviously is ramping up their messaging on this. You've got the mainstream media coming in demanding that Trump rejoin the World Health Organization. Do you have any regrets? Like, no, absolutely not. No regrets. I don't care. Dr. Tedros what is he? He's not even a medical doctor. What is he? He's like a doctor of gender studies or something.
Yeah, I had no idea. I don't know. All right. So yeah, again, just throwing it out there. If this is going to happen, I think it comes early August, and they're going to hinge on the 10 to 40% fatality rate of both of those viruses. And that's what they're going to try and use to drive the same storyline as 2020 all over again. So,
yeah.
This will probably be the last thing we're going to cover today. Ken Paxton, whose election, his runoff against John Cornyn, begins today, and he put this out on X. It's very convenient over the weekend. I just made history by securing a landmark healthcare fraud settlement that creates the nation's first ever detransition clinic and secures $10 million from Texas Children's Hospital for quote unquote transitioning kids. Let's go. So congratulations to Ken Paxton on that huge victory. I think we need to get rid of all transitioning services and convert them to detransitioning services. And anybody that has transitioned a child, especially if it's against their parents' will and without their consent, needs to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah, and they need to keep a real close eye on that clinic. The only thing I would be worried about is that they would publicly say it's for detransitioning, and then they would covertly continue the work that they were doing before to destroy these children's lives.
Yep. Okay, real quick, C. Meadows sent us this boost last week, and I completely missed it, and I apologize for that. Are you aware a listed side effect of the Pfizer vaccine is hantavirus? I am aware, however, so is like every other virus ever made.
Yeah.
So I got that. I saw Jordan's post about that a couple weeks ago. It's just one among hundreds of viruses that are listed. So, sure. I didn't pay much attention to that. It is interesting that it's there. But yeah, that's about all I got out of that. But appreciate the boost. Go ahead, Zach.
There's just so many side effects. Essentially, it destroys your immune system and it makes you susceptible to like anything.
Yeah. All right, guys. Again, smash that thumbs up. A little over 1,000 thumbs up already with almost 4,000 people watching. That's about 25% of you. Where is the other 75%? We need you guys. Smash that thumb. Help us out. Let's go ahead and get into some rants before we get out of here for Y Chromes and all the other shows coming up. G. Fontes, did Cohen complete 20 years in Congress that would allow him to receive his pension by age 50 instead of waiting until 62? Though it looks to me that age 62 has long passed for him.
Yeah, he's definitely past 62.
I think he's done 20 years. Yeah. So he would, yeah. It was Frederica that only did 7 terms, so 14 years for her. So thank you, G. Fontes. Makes sense to me too. Says I watch Daily and Red Pill News almost every day, and both of you together makes me excited for Mondays. Squares to you both. I'm hoping it's like hearts or something.
It's a love, yeah.
Yeah, the emojis don't transfer to the rants. So I'm hoping it's a good thing. Thank you so much. Makes sense to me too. Of course, you can find Zach on Rumble at 5 p.m. daily, Monday through Friday.
That's right.
Doing an awesome show over there. I usually have it on in the background while I'm doing my work. You can also check out where can they find your channel?
Oh, well, it's rumble.com/redpill78. So channel name is Red Pill News. Red Pill News is the show Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Yesterday, I played Resident Evil Requiem for about 4 hours. That was so much fun. It's a great game. It is so cool. And I definitely had Resident Evil 2 when I was a much younger man, playing that in, I think, God, that must have been college. It must have been, yeah, because I worked at KB Toys, and so I got a PlayStation because I worked at KB Toys. And it was just so much fun playing with my friends and hanging out with everybody yesterday. It's so scary.
All right. I remember Resident Evil scared the hell out of me when it first came out.
Oh, gosh.
The very first Resident Evil scared the hell out of me. I could not play that game at night.
Yeah. Scares.
Yeah, you guys can check my channel out, rumble.com/CannCon. I do a Saturday morning weekend review show where we cover a lot of the major stories from the previous week. I get to go a little bit more in commentary and an opinion on that show. And then, of course, I do my gaming premium because I don't want to charge anybody for content premium. So I just sit back and play usually League of Legends or something like that because I'm a nerd and talk a lot of trash. And yeah, if you need clips of me saying bad words, you can probably tune into that show because I talk a lot of trash. Video games are meant to be talking trash. If you're not talking trash during video games, you're not doing it right. So
no.
That's where you get out all that pent up energy and and anger. You get it out on anonymous people online playing video games that will never know you're talking trash about them. It's the best way to do it. All right, guys, stay tuned for Y Chrome's coming up here at 1 p.m. Daily Herald also at 1 p.m. Followed by Alphas Make Sandwiches at 3:30. And then, of course, you've got Baseless Conspiracies tonight.
That's right, 10:30 p.m.
Yes. And thank you guys all so much for tuning in. God bless. Smash that thumbs up, and we'll see you guys. I'll see you guys in about an hour.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.